late October, we went to Capri to help some Swedish students from Rudbeck school for a scientific experiment. Then, half a year later, we went to Sweden to learn about the results of their research and wrap up the exchange project. So, that's what we've done in those 5 days.
We spent our first day walking around the city and visiting staple monuments, such as the Parliament, the City Hall, and the Old Town.
The following day, we met up with Carl and Eva, the science teacher head of the project, who also coordinated the work in Capri. They took us to their school, where we were shown how the Swedish school system works and the peculiarities of Rudbeck school.
The school starts at 8 and finishes at 5 p.m., so there is a canteen in which students can have lunch.
Then they have lessons. But beside classic frontal lectures, there are a lot of different activities and many laboratories.
As a teacher, it was very important to have the opportunity to visit their school in order to see different methodologies and improve always my background.
The second day after lunch we had 2 lessons with the Swedish students. A part of us followed an English lessons, others a programming lessons. Then all together we had the forensics class.
We spent Thursday afternoon visiting Skansen Park. In this place we had the opportunity to go deeper into Swedish culture. We learned a lot about the first populations who lived there, from the southern area to the northern one, by moving through the rebuilding of the houses of the past. We also saw typical plants and animals spread throughout the peninsula, fish of the Baltic Sea, snake, guinea pigs, frogs. But what attracted most our attention were wolves, lynx, bears, elks and reindeers.
Thanks to our teacher's drone, we were able to admire the beautiful landscape and go to sightsee virtually the entire park with its fantastic sight around it. On Friday, just after we finished school, we set off to Uto, a small island in the Stockholm archipelago where we spent one night. This island is much smaller than Capri in both extension and population, but it was taken as a sample for the typical island in the Baltic Sea, same as Capri for the Mediterranean Sea.
Their project was aiming to compare pollution in both water and soil and to determine the cause of the differences in the two islands.
Interviewing the inhabitants, we also compared their life on the island, in particular how difficult it is, and the number of tourists in the two islands, with a focus on recycling and litter.
Both in Capri and Uto, during autumn last year, the students collected a few samples of water and soil in different areas of the two islands. Then back in the lab, they analyzed the sample for microplastic, nitrate, and phosphate.
The group who was analyzing soil also picked up some seeds of lupins and cress found both in Uto and in Capri, and they planted them in 12 samples from the islands. After a few months of growing in the greenhouse, they observed that only a few samples hosted a blooming plant. The group found out that the type of lupin preferred non-moisture soils with lack of slimy substance and close distance to roots.
The water groups found out that in the Baltic Sea there's a greater concentration of salt than in the Mediterranean Sea, and so was the concentration of microplastics. They hypothesized that the cause of this could be the amount of water that passes through the straits. There's a water exchange with the ocean, which is much more significant in the Mediterranean Sea than in the Baltic.
We learned all about this as we listened to their final presentation, just before we set off for a bike excursion all around the island. During that cycling, we had the opportunity to observe typical Swedish environments, from the forest up to the beach, where we spent an hour filling the Baltic Sea with our own hands. We also learned about the life of the inhabitants of the island, visiting the school and the local shops.